He just sort of phone call. He's because
It's just on the phone.
wonderful. Yeah, don't wait.
Lovely, thank you everyone. So we are commencing our meetings today with the review of our QV valuations, and the team from QV join us. So I will leave you to introduce yourselves. Not sure that there's a huge amount of benefit from us each introducing ourselves now, but maybe as there's questions, please do introduce yourselves as you ask. So,
Thank you. My name is Hal, the long-term manager of the Portable Value.
My name is Jack. I'm a senior consultant at QV. I'm here from Residential Course from South Wairarapa. I'm Blake Nauru. I'm a senior consultant, and recently I was the lead on South Wairarapa Revaluation.
Thank you for the opportunity to go through the general valuation. It's been a big project for us over the last 5 months, 6 months. Yeah, it's the fellow with the team with this together. So to begin with, we're just going to go through the process and get the evaluation. So in terms of the team that worked on it, we've got a team of 4 valuers and 4 graduate valuers working on the evaluation. It's a mixture of experience there. We've got David Patterson, who's a rural valuer, who's very experienced in that. We've got myself and Blake, who's a commercial valuer. Got a few graduates just working on residential type properties. And this is the main process really in terms of the revaluation program. Start off with the meeting with the OVG and the rating team, the finance team.
OVG being the Office of the Valuers General.
So they pretty much see the evaluations that they do to get to the team. And to start off, just making a plan exactly what's happening, like that, what we need to cover. And then we go through the cleansing of the sales and the data process with recent sales, identify whether work's done or there's the property is so well below the rating values. The reason why it's run down and need lots of work. It's a quite fine building. Just cleaning up those sales and the data to make sure we got what we got on property details. Then the next stage is to gather secondary evidence. So this include talking to real estate agents, valuers that work in the area, setting up surveys to property owners, which are property business owners, industrial properties, commercial properties, rural type properties. Send out survey up to them to see what's sort of rental they're getting, what sort of production they're getting, sort of details. So then we look into analysing the sales a bit more detailed. So looking at what are these sales going compared to our 2020 values, and see what movement we should be proposed to put on those. So the next step would be to set a market adjustment. So that's looking at the sales, the bulk of the evidence is just seeing the market is moving 30% since the last valuation, or 40%, or whatever the case may be, for each different property sector type, whether it's commercial, whether it's industrial, it's lifestyle, residential. And then after we put on the first card of value, we go out and inspect the property, whether it's a physical inspection by driving through past the property or looking online for the street view, looking online on the advertising that's been done on the property that's a bit sold, and see what sort of condition is on the property. And then once we've done that, we'll look at looking further market research, like the valuers, the agents, and saying, okay, these are our proposed value, but think might be high, a bit low, in terms of general view. And then if they need tweaking, we'll tweak it at that stage. So okay, a slight adjustment here. And then the final process is the quality assurance. That's our internal team. They'll look at it until whether the proposed value look good, whether the stats look good, whether the valuer who does the area to know what's driving the market, what that value proposing We conduct secondary evidence, so this like talking to estate agents and looking on property websites, just get engaged on what the is like, collecting our data. So particularly when there's a lack of actual sales, we try and use these secondary evidence to back up what we're thinking. In terms of evaluation quality assurance, this is the pretty much two quality assurance checked by our internal team into the process. First one is the when we first put the initial proposed value on the properties, and then the second part is to just about 2 weeks before the final due date, assurance team would look at it again to make sure what they're thinking still stack up. And the quality assurance team, this is an internal team, pretty much a new initiative that we brought in to try and improve the revaluation program. So they look at things like data, where there's a value or no, what's the drive of the market is in terms of what's happening, where the end value level look right, and the quality of the final document that's to the LG. So in terms of the peer review, I've got two, one for the rural sector and one for the urban sector. I've got Simon Willett, who's the Palmerston North office manager, who's an experienced rural manager, and he's got the lifestyle and rural office. And then we got Sharon, who's our urban reviewer. She's is the national QA manager, and she is with the Value General, so it's good to have her on our team. That's what they would be looking at.
Yes.
So, I'm now handing over to Mike, who will talk about the strategic overview.
So I'm taking us through our strategic overview. So we basically look at anything that has affected the values over the past 3 years, whether it be the economy, whether it's like physical, whether it be population growth, what the banks are doing, flood hazards, proposed plans, anything that kind of would have an effect on valuation. So we kind of start with macro measures. Just want to give you a heads up that what we're seeing up there is a snapshot of what the figures we're doing is the 1st of September 2023, which is our revaluation date. Obviously, they've changed a bit since then. So national employment has gone up it's about 4% now. Net migration's up about 130,000. So we've gone up about 60,000 people since our revaluation date. Official cash rate, of course, hasn't changed yet. Unfortunately, hoping to see it ease towards the end of this year. These were our figures at the start of revaluation. We jump down to more of some local figures for South Wairarapa. You can see that unemployment hasn't really changed much for South Wai. Small increase in population of 3%, and actually had a pretty decent increase in your GDP with a 6.67 since last result, which is quite impressive. You've got your main industries here. So a lot of that would be kind of rural service into local townships. Also you've got your line brokering or tourism hotspot as well. Industry changes. So there has been a couple, but nothing too major. So one of the big things we really focused on was the sewage connection issue in Marlborough. So we were provided a list from the council of which properties were affected. There wasn't actually that many affected, about 7 properties in total. We have got those listed in the basis. We have put in a bit of a structure on how we look at these properties, because obviously if you were to buy the property at the revaluation date, you'd probably pay less for property that you could have bought on. Right. So you'd have to, so one thing we looked at is obviously the council on anything that had a this in place. So we looked at it as well. We also looked at, well, if you're going to buy one of these sites and you had to buy on it, what would the cost be? So we looked at, well, you have to get a resource consent for your water tanks, all that. So we're taking that into consideration. And so we applied a discount on those selected properties. So once this problem is fixed, we'll go through and revisit these identified properties. We've also got a metrics in place to allow properties that have been missed from the list or not, where not council wasn't aware of. We can also revise the evaluation based off this metrics.
Just so you know, it's Te Kairanga, Ned. not decline now.
So,
I know, so
So we've also looked at a number of natural climate issues. So we've also looked at all properties that are on the prime list. We revisited their values. Also looked at the new 1 in 100 year flood plan, which we've looked at as well. We've also looked at the coastal erosion issues down by Cape Palliser. So we've looked at the number of properties which have actually sold with coastal erosion issues. We've used that to base up properties.
Sorry, just really quickly, the new flood mapping. Are you able to comment on what impact that specifically had on?
I absolutely can. So we previously had the last revaluation of the 150. We've now got the proposed 1 in 100. So we've looked at that. So we essentially, how we did it was we looked at each town area. Obviously, some places were affected more than others. And so essentially we did look at properties that had sold within and without and saw what the difference is. It's the exact same house and it's an area 2 streets over and it is an area and one that's not. There was actually no sales difference. So that was pretty consistent across all your areas, Carlton and Marston as well. So I think our kind of perspective on why that is because flooding isn't really a major issue yet for this area. So maybe it's something that will be more focused on in the buyer's mind further down the track when those insurance starts going up and all those kind of factors. Yeah.
In the same vein, talk about district plan. There were some parts of the district plan that took immediate effect.
Yep.
So historical places, sites of marriage significance, and rural subdivisions got approval through the Environment Court. I presume they are not part of this valuation. Is it too late? Are they? Are they going to be probably the next one?
When the valuation was done, the draft was already out in the public. So once it's out in the public, we do see whether that could have an impact on values. So we do take into consideration. What's that time?
So your valuations are with a what date though?
1st September.
1st September, okay. So that
Last year.
last year.
Right. So that was of course that then causes a bit of a problem because the district plan's not operative. So if you're incorporating that district plan, is that going to skew it a little bit?
The draft, because it was.
It's publicly notified to people who are looking to purchase. They're going to take into consideration multiple times. Yeah.
Thanks. So
Can I just pop in there for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
The issue around rural subdivision, the court case happened after the revision date, so that hasn't been taken into account in the new values.
Thank you, David. That's sort of the question I was
So what I think you said is, even if something is in the worst risk area with our floodplain mapping, at the moment, you're not reducing the values of those places because it's not being reflected in the sales at this point in time.
Yes.
But what if it does drastically in the next 6 months, for example, if the insurance companies came up with something that made the values go down, would you revise those?
So because those are, we've taken this value that's set
Except for,
the 1st September 2023. So anything.
yeah,
But it would in the next cycle.
Yeah.
Be included in your next
yeah, okay, thank you.
It's the nature of the cycle.
Yeah.
Every 3 years.
And jumping back to the combined district plan, it really for obviously for rural it's way more impactful, but for residential areas, it really hasn't seen an impact in land values yet. That is tied into having that, the way the economy is at the moment, the building and construction being so high, people aren't really going out and buying multiple sites and putting multiple houses in yet. So it's something at that date was in consideration. 3 years, 6 years down the track, it's probably going to be something that is going to be reflected, but not in this revaluation. So we've got some of our key changes, and we kind of go back to really the key drivers, which is the economy. So at your last revaluation in 2020, OCR was 0.25%, now at 5.5%. Step down to what interest rates were doing, about 3% back in 2020, 2023, about 7%. Relating into mortgages and house prices, it's about $250 extra a week if you're paying a mortgage for average mortgage of $500,000. So it's a huge impact on affordability and moving forward from then and now. And you'll see that in the kind of graph that we bring in soon. Same with inflation, 6.6 now was 1.4. Yet again, this was at the time of 1st September, so about 4.5 at the moment. Yep. Check. So these are your resource consents and total sales, so down, to up, so it's slightly down, your sales numbers for residential. Also again, building consents down 13% on last period, the previous period of 2022, resulting back in that high cost of build. Yet again, if you jump to the right there, you've also got 33 sections available purchase. That's a lot of listings for someone who wants to buy a section. You've got 33 sites, obviously they're not all in one area, but if you've got a huge section, properties you could buy, you've got room to negotiate. People aren't wanting to buy properties right now, not wanting to build, especially with the risk of construction costs. This is a very high level residential overview of each area. It's pretty clear that Featherston is the most affordable area. So looking on the right side, we've kind of got entry level section prices about 500 square meters in the new subs. So if you want a new subdivision section in Greytown, looking about 390 starting, 200, 250 in Featherston, and then back up to 390, 420 for Martinborough. And on the left there, we've kind of got a range of what you would expect to see for those average prices and in existing developments. Jumped out again, you still need about $1 million to get into a new house anywhere. With those modern houses, you kind of see there's quite a range in Featherston going down to 650. That's probably a very basic kit set home, very entry level. That's what we're talking about there. Also, we've kind of got those average prices of what you would expect for each area. Once again, Featherston being 450 to 650, obviously ranging from something that's really modest to something that's quite nice. And obviously, higher values, 700 for month and to come to breakdown. We've obviously jumped down to our rental market. One thing I'd really like to point out with you is that Martinborough is kind of a bit more expensive for those rental prices. That is to be expected with seasonal workers, who will need workers for their vineyards and all sorts like that, the tourist sector. But one thing that's really important here is those rents are about 35 to 40% higher than what on 2020. So big impact in your rental market at the moment. We haven't really seen a huge increase in the value of investment properties, very in line with what a residential property is doing. That's flowing back into the high cost of living rental at the moment, interest rates and stuff like that.
I think I'll just go back to comment about Martinborough rents.
Yeah.
If you're vineyard workers, there's a hell of a lot of vineyard workers that can't afford the rents in Martinborough.
Yeah.
Primarily driven probably by number of properties that have been used as Airbnb.
Airbnbs as well.
So yeah, Martinborough's a huge worker issue. We can't, probably not to the same extent as Queenstown, but numbers of workers that are commuting into Martinborough every day and leaving at the end of the day is huge.
I think on average it was probably about 30 to 40, and Martinborough was about 50 on average for rent increase. So it's funny.
And if I could add, a lot of those used to be in Featherston, but now they've had to go to Masterton because the rents have gone up in Featherston.
Push out further and further.
Yeah.
And so this is, it's a very high, looking at sales over from the last revaluation to your revaluation date. This is 3 years of sales. The upper quartile is up value, middle is average, and obviously lower is lower value. So at last revaluation in 2020, where average value was 660, which is shy of. And now at the peak of the market in March 2022, you're just under $1 million. So it's actually 50% of value increase between last reval, peak of the market in 2022, and you'd come down to 730,000. So you've gone up 50%, you've lost 36% with growth to now sitting about 14%. So it's been a huge increase and a huge decrease, but you're still sitting above those 2020 values. And as you can see, lower quartile hasn't done as well, and it's pretty much leveled out to what it was previously. But just in saying that, this isn't a direct relation to rating valuation. This is what the sales are doing. This is raw sales data. So this will include properties that have needed development completely, properties that have been completely renovated. So this doesn't directly relate into rating valuation. So this is raw data, hasn't been analysed and cleansed.
Interesting though.
Yeah, it's a really good perspective of what the market's actually done in your area. So over the past 3 months, prior to the revaluation date, the market in South Wairarapa actually flattened out. So still experiencing minor fall over the start of 2023, and then a flattening 3 months prior to September, flattening, and just the start of this year, you've gone up about 1 to 2%. So you've started to go back up again, which is like most of the country as well. Yeah, very, very interesting.
Sorry if you bought something in March 22.
And that's another thing to think about. So that's the street overview.
Yeah.
That's my part down for the street overview. I'm going to Jack to kind of talk you through the minute mapping, what that means.
So this is our minute mapping tool for QV. It's a very handy tool to see discrepancies in values, particularly for land. My apologies, I copied in the map with the land value overlay on the right up there, but the below one is the one we're looking at. So this is the Featherston district, and the overall growth is sitting at about 7%. There is quite a few different colours in there, but it's kind of got to remember that no property is exactly the same. So there's going to be that difference in value. The swipe me up. So this is the same picture, but with the land value overlay. So tracking at about 15%. This should and does look a lot more like homogeneous, so it should be similar. We're not supposed to have various differences in the land value of property. So yeah, 15% average for Pearson. This is not recognised as the Greytown district. So this area is moving at a higher average rate than the Featherston area, at about 12%. Again, with regard to the colours, a lot of varied property stock in Greytown. So this is expected. Yeah, we couldn't capture all of it in the above snipped image. Over to the south of the district in this bottom corner, there's a new subdivision which are lining up a bit brighter. But that's because the majority of those are vacant. So they're just tracking the land value instead of it's an improved property. A few more outliers of block chain sales, those bigger parcels and higher adjustments. So this is again the same, just with the land value overlay. So an average increase of about 20%. And as mentioned, some of those outliers there in the western and eastern sides of the block land sales, and also the retirement village on Reading Street. So those land values need to come up quite more significantly than the parcels. This is a very colourful Martinborough. Obviously a lot of different property use in amongst the square, and even out in the research properties, different ages, different sizes. So that's why it's so colourful. Also, some of the lifestyle properties around the area had good increases, generally newer properties. Okay, touch screen.
Only
A few of those.
the fifth time has done it today.
Yeah, there we go. This is our Martinborough revised land value changes. The biggest increase in the region at 40%. Might notice, yeah, I mean, that kind of just comes back to that like supply issue in Martinborough, like Blake was touching on before. Down this bottom corner of the Martinborough, that's your future urban zone, which we made a little bit of a manual adjustment to. So that's why it's going a little bit higher than some of those neighbouring sites, lifestyle properties. The reason for that is a prudent purchaser would acquire that land, over a piece of land that's not in the future urban zone. So that's kind of what we built that off. So this is just the prior changes in our map plotted on the bar graph. Yeah, the big sort of elephant in the room is that Martinborough land value increase. So to break it down, Featherston CVs went up on average 7.21%, with land values at 15.5. Greytown area was 12.4%. with a 20.1% increase on land. Martinborough 17.3 with 40% increase on the land. So overall about 15%, with a 25% increase in portion. This is our average residential dwelling values now for each of the areas, including the rural roles. So you can kind of see why that land value increase was needed as well for particularly Martinborough. If we're going to put the CVs up, the land value needs to come up as well, because otherwise that gap's just going to blow out too much. So yeah, the average property in Featherston is at 526,000. With the land value of 240,000, Greytown 865 and 430 respectively, and Martinborough 800 and 463 respectively.
I think it's important when we look at that graph.
Rules looking good.
That there was a 40% increase in the land values, but when you look at it like that, they're actually just playing catch up to what should actually be in mind. It may look at 40%, but the land values are only about 450,000. So they were previously probably on the lower side of what they actually should have been. So this kind of giving a bit of perspective. Well, it's 40% land, but when you look at it at a overall level of what it's actually doing, it's actually lining up quite well. Coming from a lot of places. Yeah.
So this is just a strategic overview of our commercial sector. So this is our findings for the commercial rents and yields. It's important to note both these rents and yields are analysed on a net basis. So your prime commercial, the rental range is about $200 to $400 per square metre. Your commercial average is 100 to 300. Industrial prime is 80 to 120 and average at 50 to 100. And then these yields, the modern yield is sitting at modern commercial is 3.5 to 6%. Your average yields commercial 7.5 to 8.5%, and then you have 3.5 to 6 and 8.5 to 10 industrial modern average. So this graphic just demonstrating the overall growth for your capital values and land values as a percentage change. So the changes are for Featherston 21 and 30% change for the CVs and LVs. That is for the commercial. The industrial is 30 and 31%. Greytown was 30 and 40% for commercial and 41 and 45 for industrial. And Martinborough was 27 and 48% for your commercial CV and LVs, and your industrial CV for 43 and 48%.
Sorry, can I, rural, can you just go back? The rural industrial, is that taking into consideration the potential of forestry? Is that
No, this is just I think that one we're looking at with the industrial. So I think that's in just outside of Greytown, it's just in the rural, absolutely rural South group.
Okay, so that's having an effect on the rural over the whole district.
No, that's just for the commercial values, industrial values.
There was,
We don't divide any of our rates by rural and urban.
No, but I'm just addressing 55% increase in land value for industrial.
So it's basically that, though, is that industrial band just outside Greytown where the
medical centre, yeah.
So that goes related.
Yeah.
that's a bit higher, how, because there was one particular large industrial area that was previously categorised as pastoral.
Oh, that's in Carson.
Oh, that's in Cardiff, was it? Right, okay.
It's already done.
Yeah, so this is our rural overview. We are lucky to have David with us, he's our rural expert, but I'll just go over the high level stuff. So for our good flat dairy, we have a $30,000 to $48,000 per hectare rate. Wet flats at $25,000 to $30,000, and easy hills is at $15,000 to $20,000. For pastoral, we've got $26,000 to $35,000 per hectare. 12,000, 26,000 for Easy Hill, and 7.5 to 12,000 for Medium Hill. And then just overall percentage changes for the capital values and land values. Dairy going up 21 and 23% respectively for capital value and land value. Pastorals at 24 and 26%. Horticulture 35 and 38%. Forestry at 37 and 40. And mining, which is more related to the quarries, is 21% and 17%.
Could I ask another question? Okay.
Oh, no, I just wanted to know, so I'm looking here and actually I'm just thinking moving from land value to capital value was probably a good idea for us.
I just asked Janice a similar question. I just said with the move from land to capital and the
Yeah.
increase that we've seen in the land, did we move in the right direction? So, yeah.
I think
I would say yes.
it's yeah, definitely in Martinborough, thank you.
Say yes.
Yeah, so in the Medium Hill, at what stage and probably this is more for you, David, at what stage does potential forestry or carbon farming come into that value of the land? Have you factored that into potential value of land?
Yes, and I think if we were doing this revaluation a year ago, those Medium Hill figures would be more like 10,500 to 15,000 a hectare. So we factored it in and we factored it out again because really the highest and best use for a lot of that pastoral land now is pastoral rather than forestry. We were just at a well, you might say at a good period or a bad period depending on what your thinking is, but you know, we've got properties that we've just sold in Masterton district, for example, just on 8,000 a hectare. And if it had sold 18 months ago, it would have got at least 15,000 a hectare. I mean, that's just what's happened. The overseas buyers have gone completely out of the market, and that whole issue about forestry has changed completely.
Okay, because when Federated Farmers came and gave a presentation to us about our rating review, one of the issues they raised was the issue of carbon and what effect that would have on land value.
Yeah.
So can you make some comment on that?
Look, there's been lots of people making suggestions about what might happen to the land value. Some suggestions are that the land value is going to decline over time as the carbon credits are taken up. I guess we'll wait and see what happens when the sales and if the sales come in. It's all very subjective at the moment, and I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to that question. I know in your area there's 2 or 3 properties that were purchased for forestry conversion, and whether they're going to be for carbon or timber, I guess we'll find out in due course when they decide to whether they decide to mill the trees in 25 years' time. But you know, those properties were one in particular that was one of the first ones that sold in the area, sold very well, and it's the one with the wind farm on it. You know, those values are way back on what those prices were. So and as those trees grow, the value of that land is going to decrease in relation to other pastoral farming values.
So would it be fair to say then that because out towards the coast particularly, towards our south coast, farmers out there would be pretty concerned, they're pastoral farmers in the main, they'd be pretty concerned that their land may not be as economic for pastoral farming as it could be for forestry or carbon. Are you telling us that you haven't taken that into account, you've assessed it as pastoral land?
Correct. And there was a couple out there that particularly were on the market at the time we were doing the revals, and they just had no interest at all from anybody. So they were wanting 10,000 a hectare one particular block, and they just had no interest. So there's no premium being put into these values for forestry.
Fantastic, thank you.
You want maybe?
Who you're talking about.
Oh, yes, I'm pretty talking about this.
All right, okay.
That answers our question, doesn't it?
So this is pretty much an overview of the result of the evaluation, but I'll put more. It's around 20.3%, and then they 6% for the top three increase of utilities at 5.8, industrial at 38.8, forestry at 36.7, and land value looking at top industry, industrial 45.1, 2, and forestry at 3.5. Residential being the biggest number of properties, it's on up 10.9% of capital values, 24.8% of land. It's just graph. Yeah, just the result that I just talked about, showing increases. These are the key dates for the revaluation. Do bear in mind that even though the revaluation just been released, it is value as at 1st of September 2023. So the market is, like I mentioned earlier, ticked up slightly now, so we can't take that into account. The valuation was due with the OG on the 15th March, and that came on the Pony office to do the audit on the 25th. March, and that was certified last Friday, and the new value was implemented on Saturday. Owners notice will be posted next week on the 24th, but the valuation are available online now on the website. People wish to have a look at them. And the last day for objection is the 31st of May. So
Just to highlight that the objection process is handled by QB. So if you do get anyone asking, how do I argue about my object to my
You still would do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they can do that online, but
And yeah, there's that date of the 31st of May.
So if they want to look at the evaluations now, they can just.
They can go on.
Just on the QV site.
Council website already, on our website already.
Very user friendly, you simply type in your address in it.
Guys, yeah.
Okay.
I've got someone that particularly was trying to sell their place about value on the house.
You want to know?
Yes, I can do that. I can know that. I don't like being close to this.
Yeah.
That helps. That's from us.
Look at how happy those people are to live in the South Wairarapa.
Farmers are stoked.
They're wrecked.
Thank you. I think that was a very clear overview of where we've landed. We've done a lot of questions throughout the presentation. Was there any final questions for the QV team? I've got some questions, but probably more for Janice and Charlie, so probably let you guys make your journey back over the Oasis.
Just like to say that was great because it gives us information, a bit more detail that we can share with our communities. Going through a enhanced annual plan process and consultation. Lots of reasons, one that asks lots of questions, so this sort of information.
And having an understanding with we've also just gone through a rating review, so that'll be changing from 1st July. And this actually has given us a lot of information as well about those differences and what it could have meant one way or the other, so.
Also really appreciated having you guys come in person.
Yes.
Very nice, and it helps to pay attention to lots of words.
That includes you, David, even though you are here in person.
And in spirit, thank you.
It's pretty easy to understand, so.
I've learned a lot through this process as well, and I was quite impressed going to QV and talking to the deputy VG about the amount of information that goes into these values. It really is not just a finger in the air process. It's months.
And we do have a lot of help, the team, the council, well, the planners and the GIS team. Yes, Charlie's team.
Kirsty, yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
I think if we could just maybe hold for 5 minutes, we'll let you guys go, but the rest of us can maybe just hold 5 minutes, that would be great.